it's amazing what we learn, after working for 30 and 40 years. I myself have been working full-time since 17. I worked part-time and in fields and stuff since I was 10, detasseling corn, cutting out rogues in tomato fields. I worked in restaurants as a dishwasher and busboy all through high school at the same restaurant. Worked 3 days a week minimum, Saturdays, Sundays, or Fridays and Saturdays, and then 1 day during the week. Anyway, so we've worked for a long time. When you get to be 60, you've worked for a lot of years. But I didn't start making, I'm going to call this real money, until I got my first good full-time job, and that was when I started as a machinist at 18 years old, for the grand total of $4.10 an hour. Now, at that time, minimum wage was $3.15 or $3.25. So making $4.10, my friends thought I was rich. I mean, holy mackerel, you're making a lot of money. Well, the job also was very stressful, and it was a smaller shop. We didn't get, all of our overtime was mandatory, is what I'm trying to get around to. It was mandatory. We worked 60 hours a week. It was 5 days of 11 and a half hours, Monday through Friday, and then we worked 6 on Saturday, basically from 6 to noon every Saturday. And it was mandatory. You missed a day, they just hired somebody new. They didn't mess around with people. And so what I wish I'd have learned, and what I would have learned early, was to be better saver. Plain and simple. The fact that 40 years of compounding money adds up, I don't care what you pay, is significant, and we need to learn this. And we still have time. If you're in your 50s still, you still have time to take advantage of 10 or 15 possible years of compounding your money with a 401k or whatever else you're doing. But had I started even back in those days, right? So, and just done 10% of my income. And 10% of my income at that time, I figured out the math. I would have been making $290 a week because of my overtime. So that would have been $29 a week invested. And if I'd only made that kind of money forever, to this day, that would still be almost $500,000 in my 401k or in an investment account. That's just figuring at 8%, doing only $29 a week for the past 40 years. That's pretty significant. And that's why I say it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's how much you save, right? It's not how much you bring in, it's how much you keep. So how much of your money can you keep? And if you just do minuscule amounts, it still matters. So that's number one. Start saving and never stop saving. It doesn't make any difference how much money you make. You can find $29 a week, okay? That's the minimum. I always say at least $100 a week forever. And you see a lot of people run that math. $100 a week for 30 years or 40 years turns into over $1 million pretty easily, okay? So that's number one. No matter what, no matter how small, a savings is a savings no matter how small. All right, number two, my personal opinion. Put your money in the S&P 500 and leave it there. The S&P 500 historically returns 11%, but let's just be safe. And even if you just return 8%, like I said, based on the math I ran, that 8% at $29 a week, got up to $421,000. That's with adding nothing else. So put your money in the S&P. I just strongly believe that, and I know many of the wealth gurus out there say you can never outpick the S&P. You just can't, because it takes everything into account, and you're going to make money. So even if you're doing brokerage account on your own, put it in an S&P EFT or ETF, whatever it's called. Put it in there. That's what I'm currently doing with the other money that I'm saving. I have some of it going to a high interest savings account, and the rest of it is working in an account where I am picking, Bitcoin ETFs, and I'm picking S&P 500 ETFs, and just letting the money roll. All right. Number three, and all these examples were currently based on if you didn't do anything else with your money. This is increase your amount. Number 3, increase the amount. And obviously you're going to increase the amount. One of the things I started doing years ago, once I got into a better financial position, I went through some tough times with my heart surgeries back in 2005. It took us a few years to get out from under that. But what I ended up starting to do, and one of the small things you can do incrementally, is every time you get a raise, yes, you're making 3% more. So obviously your wages go up 3%. So obviously your input into your 401k goes up, but it doesn't go up the full 3%. Let's be honest, right? So what I started doing to get maximum money out of my investments was I started adding in the raises every year. So if I got a 3% raise, I bump up my 401k contribution that 3%, or split it, go up 1.5% or whatever, and until you get to where you're doing at least 15% with your company match. After that, there's other ways to invest, right? So that's what I currently do still, is that I put in 12, the company matches my 3, so I get 15, and everything after that I put into high yield savings into my own brokerage account, so that I can manage that money, and it's after tax. I realize there's a lot of advantages to pre-tax stuff, but I'm already doing that, and now I want to have access to resources without having to pull out of my 401k and take a withdrawal and pay a tax on it. So I'm saving the other half, the difference over there. Anyway, those are just 3 things I wish I'd have started doing a long time ago. Wish I knew better. Things that I teach my kids, and I would teach anybody. If you still have plenty of time. If you've got 10 years or more to work, you got plenty of time. If you've got 20 years or more, you have lots of time, and there's no reason not to take advantage and become a millionaire before you retire. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate y'all. See you next time.